Hi, everybody. I am Shelly B, a conservative Black sister surviving in a hot mess world. And tonight's hot mess is still the Senate hearing on COVID-19 vaccines. I had to split this into three parts just so I could get all the information and I wanted you guys to see out there. But before we get into this last little portion of these hearings, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Please subscribe to this channel. It doesn't take anything to do. Get off whatever platform you're watching me on, if it's on Facebook, and please just go to YouTube and subscribe to the channel. It will really help me a lot. Thank you so much. I would appreciate it. I love you. I need your help here. Please subscribe to the channel so that these videos can get out there and the message can get out there so I can help everyone elevate their frequency while I elevate mine. Okay, so over the past 2 nights, I have been posting about the Senate hearings on COVID-19 vaccines. And for anyone that doesn't know, the Senate had a hearing. They created a permanent committee to look at the corruption surrounding the COVID-19 vaccines. And they want to get to the bottom of the safety data that, was sued for and presented to show that the vaccines are just not safe and that a lot of people died. A lot of people had adverse reactions and stuff. And that the feds, the CDC, and the FDA, and the government, of course, the Biden administration covered up and hid the safety signals from the public. And the doctors, scientists, journalists, and people like that were trying to get the truth to the public were censored. So they want to get to the bottom of that. The vaccine injured, which was the saddest thing in this whole debacle, was that the vaccine injured were censored and they just were ignored and they didn't get any care at all. A young girl was injured in the trials and she was paralyzed, and she, they ignored her too. So, it's a disgrace what happened. And it's unfortunate that it took 5 whole entire years for this to come out, because people have been speaking on this from day one. And a lot of people were blocked and censored, their profiles taken down. I was one of those people that profile was taken down on Instagram for posting about these shots. And a lot of people, I took a lot of smoke for that. Nothing in comparison to what these doctors went through and what these, what these patients went through. But the main reason why I wanted to post this is because there is hope for people out there that are vaccine injured, because you can't go to university hospitals. They're not going to help you there. They don't know how to treat the injuries. And these doctors, they have been, for the past 5 years, a lot of them have private practices doing what, cardiology or gynecology or whatever. And these doctors right here are just some of a few doctors that have changed their practice into just helping the injured. So that's how many people are out there that are actually injured, that they have a multitude of doctors and clinics that are just catering to the injured. And these people here tonight are really renowned and like the some of the loudest people about this whole situation with the vaccines and not being safe. And there was one gentleman that's a lawyer that sued for certain data to be released by the CDC and FDA and Pfizer. And so it's a lot of receipts out here. The Democrats don't have any receipts. Their pharma doctors and lawyers, whatever, they don't have the receipts. And I just can't wait to see how this goes. I hope it doesn't turn out like the Epstein files and ends up being BS and, nobody gets, no one's held accountable. I mean, Fauci was part in, and God only knows. I mean, I feel like it's so many people involved in this. And I just hope there's justice for these injured people, because, all they had to do was warn the public. And one thing that came up in yesterday's live, you can watch it, is that the lawyer was saying that before the pharmaceutical companies were given immunity, there were only 3 vaccines on the schedule. But once they gave them immunity, now you see we have hundreds of vaccines, and kids are getting ridiculous amounts of vaccines because of greed. And they, like he was saying, like, why would they make a good product when it doesn't matter what they make, because they have full immunity and they can kill as many people as they want to. And this is a case of that. And it doesn't matter because they can kill and maim and harm as many people as they want to, and they get full immunity. You can't sue them and nothing can be done. And like a lot of people are pointing out, that is very unconstitutional to give a company like that immunity. And not for nothing, I honestly can't see why anybody would want to take a product that, you know, has immunity from harm, because what if you're harmed and then you can't sue? And a lot of people, I don't think they know that about pharma. And if they do, I would love for people to explain to me why they would take a product like that. You know, I knew that, and that's why I didn't want to take it. Plus, you know, I went down a rabbit holes early on, and I found out that, you know, I was hearing about myocarditis, and I was seeing some of these, you know, independent journalists and stuff talking about these injuries. So let's just get in and watch this last little bit that's left on here, because I only have about like 30 minutes or so left on here, you know, because the first one is about an hour and a half long, and then the second one was like an hour, and this one has like a little bit left. Because I just want to make sure that most people are not going to watch this whole 3-hour thing. The news is not going to really, the mainstream media is not really reporting on it, because it's Democrats the whole reason why this is happening. And of course, they're never going to show them in a bad light. One thing I would like to just really say to you guys, you really should watch this in its entirety. Just watch the whole hearing, because I feel like it's very fascinating at what these doctors are saying, the side effects and stuff that a lot of people might not even realize are side effects of these products, and the help that you can receive if you feel that you're injured or you know somebody that may be injured, because this product probably has more adverse effects than anything that it was ever made in history. So, all right, so let's just listen what this gentleman's going to say. This guy up here right now is you know, the pro-vaccine guy, the pharmaceutical lobby guy. He's a governor, and he's also a doctor. I think he's a governor of Hawaii or whatever. And you can just tell he's so disingenuous. Everything he's saying is not documented, like, you know, like the doctors that are speaking against it, they have their facts and receipts. This guy has no facts and receipts, and they keep asking him. He's like, well, I can give you all kinds of facts and receipts. Okay, well then why didn't you come with any today? So I just want everybody to just watch this story, because this is a permanent committee, and we're going to see more of this. And I would just advise everybody to mind their health. And majority of these protocols that work to help the injured or to help, you know, clear your body of the toxins and the spike proteins, a lot of it is natural that you can use, and they're not extremely expensive. And that's another reason why pharma wants to stop, you know, these doctors too, because if everybody could cure themselves with natural things that are not that expensive, you know, what do we need them for, you know? So, you know, I really hope and pray that at least, if nothing else, out of this, they take away immunity from these companies, because this is ridiculous. Because why would you make a good product? Why would you make a product that was good and take the time to create a product that won't harm if you're safe from harm? You know what I mean? No matter what you do, no matter how many people you kill with it or hurt with it, they cannot sue you. And I feel like that is the most insane thing ever. And I can't believe they would, you know, pass something like that. But that just goes to show you how corrupt the government is, and how much they don't care about the citizens or the people. The people are pawns, and they're meaningless. So people need to start waking up to this. All right, listen to this guy.
Country, you think it was shut down before? It's going to be shut down 50 times worse. We worked to open the state. That was
now. Let me just set this up. He was talking on and on and on, because they asked him, what does he think about the VAERS data that the lawyer sitting next to him sued for 2 years to get, and then Pfizer data and all this data that they have that shows that the vaccines are not safe and this and that. And they asked him about that, and he's gaslighting. He never does, you know, say, you know, how he feels about it, but he's just going to take you back in the day, and, you know, things that he did that are irrelevant to the question he was asked, that has nothing to do with COVID-19 vaccine. I mean, this guy, you have to watch this for in its entirety to see how much of a scoundrel that this doctor/governor is.
It's a misrepresentation by the good senator from Ohio. We worked to open the schools and open the state by just making sure people had a test, so they were negative.
One of the senators asked him, why did you shut down schools? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? And this is his response.
it helped us. It helped us. And we didn't force people to get vaccinated if they wanted to travel. And I didn't support mandates. Just so you
now see, they're going to say, oh, we didn't force you. You had a choice and this and that. You know, it's just so diabolical and wicked what they've done.
know the
That's
truth.
fine.
Right. So a lot of this, of course, is tilted very heavily to demonize this vaccination and the process. And I respect if the data comes out and shows that, or someone covered up, I respect that.
So I will say the COVID cartel was tilted very strongly to demonize these people. Okay.
That is true, because they're going to try to say now that they want to hear all the evidence and this and that, and you know, they're open to this and that. But at the time, everybody was being censored, everybody was being blocked, and like I said it yesterday, you could go on Instagram, TikTok, anywhere, and if somebody was showing a vaccine injury, like it literally was blacked out. It was blacked out. Like any people that were talking about the vaccines or being injured or whatever, it was blacked out. Any doctors that were trying to say, yo, something's wrong here. I'm seeing my patients coming in here with, you know, swollen hearts or whatever. And they're like blocked, fired, lose your license, you know, and it's like, so other doctors learned to not say anything because they didn't want to lose their ability to practice. And I just thank God for these people that stuck in there and kept fighting. And these lawyers that sued to get this information to the public. Even though mainstream media is not sharing it with the public, and they're still supporting these products to the very end. And I just want people to wake up to what is going on here and really go down the rabbit holes. I tell you all the time, you're not going to elevate your frequency unless you answer every unanswered question you have in life about anything. Go down the rabbit holes, think for yourself. Don't be a part of the mass mind, because the mass mind gets you stuck on stupid and all together in some mess like the COVID-19 situation. So I just really can't keep telling you guys enough times to watch this in its entirety. Find out who these doctors are, because they all have programs where they're trying to help the injured. And like I said, there's a lot of doctors out there. Dr. Stella Emanuel is another one, you know, that are curing people or helping people with COVID, and that are prescribing the medicine that really does work for it, and helping patients that are vaccine injured. And there's so many of them. Anytime these doctors can be kicked out of their jobs at medical centers and hospitals and university hospitals and stuff, and go out there and create a whole new career of helping vaccine injured people, there's a lot.
To vilify them, to offer retribution. So no,
but you just called them a cartel. You don't think that's demonizing somebody?
There's no doubt this panel is
the media was a cartel. The government was a cartel. Blue politicians were the cartel, because they are the ones that went to the social media companies and told them to block anybody that talks about the vaccine or speaks against our agendas and stuff like that. That's a cartel. He ain't lying.
Tilted toward one side, but the vast majority of the media and the agencies and everything else are tilted toward the one side, and that's what's right. So frustrating.
It is,
and the reason we'll have a tough time the next pandemic is because our federal health officials and the media lied to us, and we have proof they lied to us, and we have proof that they went and they used the power of the federal government to.
They knew from day one that those shots were causing problems. I told you the little girl got paralyzed in the trials, and they covered it up. What would you do that for? You understand? Because you have immunity, and who cares? Let's get these billions.
You have social media companies censor people. Dr. Walscott, I do want to cover this because this is egregious.
Yes, it is.
And people committed suicide because of this.
Yes, they did.
But talk about
some people have such terrible injuries, like tremors that are uncontrollable, that wouldn't stop, and just autoimmune skin disorders, and just all kinds of wild illnesses. Some people lost their limbs and stuff like that. Deion Sanders almost lost his leg, and I mean, allegedly, a lot of people think it was because of the shots, because people have these blood clots in their legs, and he had to get a huge chunk of his leg out. Now, he was also a person that was for the vaccine and called everybody stupid for not getting it and this and that. And he just ended up with one of these injuries, even though he won't admit that he's vaccine injured. But people that do admit to being vaccine injured had that same injury that Deion Sanders had. And he was just lucky to not lose his leg because he's rich and famous. But most people lose their limbs from it. It's fierce.
Facebook, after our event in Milwaukee, talk about how Facebook repeatedly shut down the support groups for the vaccine injured. That was their only lifeline because they could not get help.
Yes, they did. Now, if you guys don't know what he's talking about, Facebook had groups of people that were organizing together with vaccine injuries. They're like, it just organically formed. Like people will come and say, I got this issue after I had the shot, and I have this issue after, and like these groups started forming of people saying they're vaccine injured. I looked in all those groups. People are showing videos of them with all these wild, issues, tremors, Bell's palsy, and skin disorders, and not being paralysis was another big one. And they just took the whole group down. So now all of these people that were connected together trying to help each other and trying to find help for themselves were just deaded. And that was wicked. That was so evil what they did to the people that are injured. And 5 years later, a lot of these people are still suffering. I saw a lady, I think she was Canadian, and she was a single mother and she had kids and she was paralyzed. And they had been suing for this lady. I don't know. I think they have determined that it was a vaccine injury. But the thing about when you sue the vaccine companies, you're not ever really suing them. This is how diabolical the government is. You're not suing the vaccine company. If you sue them and can prove by the grace of God that it was their product, because they're going to gaslight and do everything they can do to make it seem like it's your fault and it's not their fault. If they do become liable, then guess where the money comes from? Our tax dollars to pay the victim, not from the pharmaceutical companies. They have immunity and our tax dollars pay. So this system needs to be reworked over, and they need to take away this immunity and make these companies responsible, period.
They weren't believed. They only had each other. And so they had these Facebook groups, and Facebook shut them down, and people lost contact, and people committed suicide because of it.
Horrible.
Yeah, so this is now earlier in 2021 when there was just
if you guys weren't with me yesterday, this doctor right here was actually vaccine injured. And they call him an anti-vaxxer, and they try to make all these people seem like they're quacks, but he was actually vaccine injured, and his injury caused him to where he couldn't even practice anymore. He was a surgeon of some sort, and he fell out. Whatever he had, it kept him from not being able to walk or stand or something like that. And he had to quit practicing because he couldn't do his work anymore. He was that hurt by the vaccine. And this is what people are dealing with. And thank God this man, kept going. I think he also has some type of wellness company for the vaccine injured. It's horrible.
Couple of isolated people across the country early on. For example, Breanne Dressen, who's my co-chair at React 19, she was injured during the AstraZeneca trial, so very much in the fall of 2020. And early on after that,
all these people were getting effed up in these trials, and they still brought it to market. Why? Because they have immunity and they don't care about the people. The government knew that these products were faulty and dangerous, and they did it anyway. Why? Because the government does not care about the people. Period.
So she started communicating with some other people across the country, and her husband has some connections out at the NIH. That group started communicating with Dr. Nath, who is a neurologist at the NIH, who clearly confirmed that these injuries were vaccine related.
Mm-hmm.
These people started giving each other support. Really, what do we do? What do we do?
It's horrible.
Communicated with Dr. Johnson's office. I'm sorry, Senator Johnson's office.
One person that stuck out to me that really started making me look at the vaccine injury was Lisa Rinna's daughter. She came on one of these social media sites and was saying that she has all these autoimmune illnesses after getting the shots. She said that her family told her not to do it, do not go on there and do it. And she said, look, F y'all, because something ain't right with me and I need help. And nobody was able to help. So that's why people started just going into social media land and try to see if they can find somebody to help. And that's what she did. She said she had autoimmune stuff that was like under control. And when she took it, all of it all just started resurfacing all at once. So I never knew what happened to that girl because I never heard about her no more after that, you know. But her family was very angry that she went on there and spoke on it because it was at the height of COVID crazy. It was the height of, you know, I got my vaccine. Oh, you know, get vaccinated. You're going to kill everybody. You know, so, you know. So I wonder what happened to Lisa Rinna's daughter. If anybody knows, let me know.
Office. And in the end, they had a press conference in June of 2021 in Milwaukee. And the idea of the press conference, again, don't let me speak for you, Senator, but was just to allow these people to be acknowledged and to communicate their story. Well, not only did the media show up and not cover their story, it turned into a hit piece basically on Senator Johnson. But more importantly, within 3 to 5
the mainstream media has never ever reported on this, on these injuries. And that is despicable that all these hundreds of thousands of people, if you see in the first one that I did, hundreds of thousands of people died like between 0 and 2 days at getting it. And you mean to tell me that that's not a story? But this is the mainstream media, and the mainstream media is leftist. It's Democratic owned and operated. I think Fox News is also control opposition. The vaccine companies, they pay for all of the mainstream media news. So what are they really gonna say? It's disgusting. It's terrible. That's why I keep telling y'all, watch independent media, because if it wasn't for the independent journalists, this would never have gotten out. And a lot of journalists was killed over this, end up missing over this. A lot of doctors were killed over this, you know. So it's a big thing. This is going to go down in history. 100 years from now, this is probably going to be one of the biggest things people will look at and say, what the hell was wrong with these people during this time? What would no one will understand the logic and the reason why this went down the way it went down. And no one can, to this day, no one can convince me that it's just money and greed why they did this. This makes no sense.
5 days after that press conference, all of those support groups that Brianne Dressen had set up were all shut down. And in retrospect, they found out that, you know, through the White House communication office, who was communicating with another contractor who was following her, and they directly through the White House communication office shut all those groups down.
Yeah.
And you might say, well, it's too bad.
So that's the next thing. This why this has to be a permanent Senate group, because they have so much to uncover. It was so much corruption from every direction with this, that this is the thing that made me so mad. It's going to take them more years now to go through all of this. You understand? All of these people are coming with facts and receipts to put in. I mean, but they've been doing this since 2020. But now that this administration is in office, I feel like maybe something a little bit more will get done. But I just feel like it's going to take so long. You know, Biden will be dead by the time they get through all of this. I mean, it's just, and I just don't see why people just have cognitive dissonance surrounding this. Like, everybody should be so angry about this. Everybody's mad at Donald Trump for bullshit, and I just don't understand it. This is the most important diabolical thing that anybody has ever done to humanity as a whole in the history of humans, in the history of workers, in the history of government. I mean, it's just diabolical on so many levels.
They can't communicate with each other. No, some of the people were suicidal and subsequently killed themselves. So this resulted in.
And Governor, this is again, I was going to say, you know, and we should never do that, and it's regrettable and all kind of stuff. But that's what happened. It happened repeatedly. It's still happening.
Look, let me support Dr. Walsog, okay, for a moment. Okay, first, I will be empathetic. It is terrible, and believe me, this is not anything that I would do. But let me just say this:
Peter Marks didn't find it terrible because
these people are evil.
Okay, well, but I do want to say, That is terrible. And we should have open communication.
They have 5 doctors sitting up there, and they have this one guy that's sitting here lobbying for pharma. Sitting up there with no facts and receipts. He has all these papers on his desk, more than anybody in there, but has no facts and receipts for anything that he's saying.
However, that is not necessarily what I'm feeling the love here in the hearing. Okay. And mind you, I spent 14 years on your side of the, desk, and I spent now 6 years on the other side
what he's saying
as an executive.
What he's been asked.
The truth is, it's always somewhere in the middle. People have their biases. And if it's true that the Biden administration, encouraged people to not share information, that's bad. But there was another president also that was encouraging the vaccinations. And so we had 2 presidents, one Republican, one Democrat, in fairness, who.
So now they're going to try to throw President Trump under the bus because of Operation Warp Speed, because, this is just so crazy to me. This is all so crazy to me. Even though all of the people that, what do you call it? His people that were advising him were all these leftover Democrats that he had, like Fauci and all the people at the FDA and the CDC and all. That's why this time around he got rid of everybody. He fired everybody. He learned his lesson, But Operation Warp Speed is his fault. He did say that the vaccine was safe because that's what he was told. You know what I mean? So now I guarantee you, they're going to throw him under the bus with all of this. You understand? But he wasn't there the whole time for these mandates and all this cover up and all this stuff. So we're just going to have to see how this goes.
They promoted the vaccine. And so all this conversation about not sharing enough of the potential risks and so on, everyone, and I would say this, everyone, including you guys and us and these good people, we're all responsible as a society to do our best to communicate. And when I hear words,
he's saying do our best to communicate, but the government censor everybody, and they still do it. They censored everybody that goes against that leftist liberal agenda, no matter what it is. If it was COVID, you didn't like Kamala Harris, you got banned and blocked. If you didn't like Joe Biden, you got banned and blocked. If you talked against anything, you got banned and blocked. You understand? If you have conservative values, you got blocked. It's like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Forgive me. When I hear words, you use the word cartel, and I'm not going to defend anyone. I'm saying that word is explosive. Okay. And
it was developed out of firsthand experience dealing with them.
Believe me, and I have plenty of words to share about the people that threatened my life many, many times, because I was a public health official, not even in favor of the things they were threatening my life over. Many times.
What does any of this have to do with? Did they know that the shots were not safe, and this data is showing that they did? And they're asking him, what is his thoughts on that? I mean, just say it's wrong. You know what I'm saying? The receipts are there. Everything is there showing that they did know, and they covered it up. The lawyers had to sue to get them to make it public what they found. For 2 years, they had to sue the FDA and the CDC to get them to release that data that they had. Because somehow they must have had a whistleblower, somebody tell them that they had this data showing that a lot of people were killed in the beginning. It's crazy.
Send it to our attorney generals. I'll get you copies of that too, Senator, if you'd like. Okay. Pretty awful stuff when they threatened my daughter's life. We have also an 18-year-old daughter, sir. And so that is the problem.
So bad.
Now, I am appreciative of the process you're going through, because we should look at the horrible episode, which is what COVID was, and do better in the future. But if it ends up being skewed to the demise or the suppression ultimately of vaccinations, which is what a large
this vaccine should have to go. How do you have a defense for a product that killed 300 and something thousand people? And that's the FDA and the CDC's own numbers, which just leads me to believe that it's 100 times worse.
part of
This is too
society
much.
is fighting to do, then we will all lose.
So
And
again,
that's why I'm speaking up.
What we're trying
This
to
is too
do is
much.
restore integrity to science, which it has been corrupted. Again, you pay for science, you get the result you want. You got Fauci paying for science for 40 years. He's getting the result he wants.
Yep.
So again,
And that's why he
I'm
got a
begging you.
pardon.
please provide the studies, the citations that
They done asked him multiple times to provide the studies of what you're talking about, because everybody else got up there with the facts and the receipts of where they're getting their information from. Pharma cannot do that.
prove that the injection actually reduced severity of symptoms, prevented deaths. Give us those studies so we can throw those in the hearing record and compare them to other studies like, for example, the Lassiter study or Lataster study that I did enter.
It
There's so
will not
many
be
studies
difficult,
out
Senator.
there.
There's so many.
And again, listen,
He's saying it wouldn't be difficult. Then why didn't you come with them today? Why are they asking you multiple times to cite which study your data is coming from, and you're gaslighting and you're not saying any? Meanwhile, everybody else is telling you all this information. These doctors are actually seeing patients. This study, this lawyer sued and got this document, and he's sitting there with 1,000 papers on his desk with no facts and receipts.
as I said, I'm well aware of the fact 5. I think I've given you a fair amount of time to
This is
respond
who
to
you're
stuff.
dealing with. These are the people
yeah,
y'all like.
I've
I
tried to
don't
be
give a
I'm used to
These are your
talking a
people.
lot. It's okay.
We all are. It's an occupational hazard here. And we'll just prove it here, Senator
Hot
Blumenthal.
mess.
Thank you. And I'll have to be quick because I have to actually go to the floor. I've just been at my other
These
committee
people are
meeting.
too much.
And I want to ask you a kind of yes or no question, Governor Green.
Now watch what he's going to do.
HHS apparently is making plans to change the way that vaccines are approved, requiring placebo trials for vaccines that have been used previously for decades.
What does any of this have to do with the COVID-19 vaccines safety data cover up? What does that have to do? People are dying, people are sick, vaccine injured, people have been denied treatment and censored and blocked. This is what this hearing is about. What are we talking about here? They need to just stop giving immunity to these companies. They just need to stop. They just need to stop. All right, let me skip over him because he's just going to gaslight us a little more. I just want you guys to hear the last final words of these doctors here. You can watch him on your own time. The link will be in the description.
The company has innovative products like spike detoxification based on
So
peer.
what this senator is trying to do is what everybody keeps saying, to try to discredit this doctor because he has a wellness company and he's trying to discredit him with his company, but he couldn't do it. Watch this.
Reviewed studies demonstrating the scientific underpinnings for a combined use of
Well,
three over-the-counter nutraceuticals, which are nattokinase, bromelain, and curcumin. You can buy them anywhere
And they
on
have
the
been saying
internet
that from
if
day
you want
one
them.
that
So
was
the
for COVID.
company, I don't have the company's balance sheet with me, but I can tell you its overall valuation right now is about $50 million with an M. And that pales in comparison to the tens of billions of dollars that the government spent on
Yeah.
vaccines
Yeah.
that have caused great harm.
They sweating him over his little wellness company with his little natural products to help people detox from spike proteins. And he has a company where he subscribes the right medicine for the vaccine injured and stuff. And and he doesn't even really, he just gets a salary out this company and he doesn't even have like a stake or nothing. He's just trying to help people. And they're trying to attack him and make him look like he's doing something bad. You understand? This is what they always do.
The wellness company, we are trying to help the country recover, whereas further vaccination is putting the country into a big hole in terms of damaging their health care.
and you're
And see, he tried to comfort his doctor, but you can't comfort somebody that's on the side of righteousness. These people are demons, and I'm just glad they couldn't come for any of these people there today.
Audience, please.
your company. That company also makes ivermectin. Ivermectin.
The company can prescribe, the doctors can prescribe ivermectin, they can prescribe Paxlovid, molnupiravir, they can prescribe.
Those are all drugs that actually work for COVID. And he's saying the doctors are real doctors and they prescribe what the patients need. They're not listening to some government bureaucrats telling them what to give the people. They're actually treating people and actually trying to help people that are in need.
Any drug within the pharmacopoeia.
How much have been the profits from the sale of that drug since 2020?
Well, it's prescribed. So whatever pharmacy delivers it, like CVS or Walgreens.
He thought he was going to have an aha moment that like he's getting money from these drugs, but they're not making any money from the drugs. They prescribe the drugs and the people go get them from the pharmacy. They're just giving people the right medicine they need to heal.
Bribe any
I'm
profit.
talking about profits for the company.
It can't, because they prescribe drugs to pharmacies. The pharmacies are the ones that people pay to get
What
the
is
medication.
you have a
He's
personal
trying so
share
hard to show
in
him doing
profits
something
from the wellness company?
Yeah, I receive a set salary. I don't receive any percent share of profits, and I have a very minor equity stake in the company. I work there part-time. I'm full-time in practice. I'm also the president of the McCullough Foundation.
But you do share in the revenue and profits.
They just
I
trying.
receive
let
a
me-
set
let me
salary.
ask you,
So that's
again,
it's an
I
incorrect assertion. I get a set salary. I do not have any sharing of any revenue that comes in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
He just trying to get them, and he can't.
Has your board certification ever been revoked?
I
Look,
resigned from the American
this
Bar.
is the whole point of what they're saying, is that they come after these doctors and try to discredit them and make them look like they're quacks or they're doing something illegal or something wrong. And it just makes them look more evil. The man done sat there and told you all the facts and receipts of what is wrong. And he's been telling you for 5 years about the health of these patients. And then the lawyer sues for the documents from the government and find out that they knew about these deaths and these injuries and everything. And you're still attacking the man. It's like, just, these people got to go. They have got to go. Anybody that wants Democrats in office, I don't understand what's wrong with you. They are the most wicked, evil, demonic people I've ever seen in my life.
Internal medicine, November 11th of 2024, due to an ongoing dispute over the term you've used, misinformation, which is a propaganda term. It's a leverage term. So I had a dispute.
They told all the doctors were putting out information. All of the injured were misinformation. But really now we see that the only misinformation was coming from the mainstream media, the government, the FDA and the CDC, and these Democrat politicians. That was who had the misinformation, because everybody else was right. The conspiracy theorists, and they was 100 the whole time.
Resigned from. Listen, I'm one of the most published people in the American Board of Internal Medicine. They rely on my research for a lot of their board materials.
So you're no longer board certified.
I'm board certified by the.
Now he's trying to say he's not board certified. He can't get him on anything, and he just keeps coming and keeps coming and keeps coming. He just looks like a demon. Look at this man. He looks like a demon.
The National Association of Physicians and Surgeons. There's many different organizations that provide board certification.
Which one did you resign from?
The American Board of Internal Medicine.
Look at his
after
eyes, straight
40
devil.
years of a perfect clinical track record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Look.
A perfect example.
Big nothing burger. Both him and that other doctor, big nothing burger for the whole hearings.
Of the vilification of people that had a second opinion. By the way, it's always my understanding in medicine that if you had a serious health condition, you go seek a second opinion.
Yeah.
Because nobody has all the answers. Every human body is different, but that was an unfortunate line of questioning.
Yeah.
Mr. Siri,
That's how they do.
do you want to describe why it's appropriate for HHS Secretary Kennedy to actually do some research on vaccines? I'm quite sure, tell me if I'm wrong here, but when Mr. Kennedy pressed Fauci for the random control blind placebo trials on childhood vaccines, oh yeah, we've done all kinds of them. Couldn't produce one. I know in testimony, we've had other officials of the CDC or FDA ask the same question. They just can't come up with them. So can you set the record straight in terms of what studies have actually been done on the vaccines on the childhood schedule?
Absolutely. So
now this lawyer is the lawyer that sued the FDA and the CDC to get that data. They sued Pfizer. They've sued so many pharmaceutical companies and sued the government endless times about these policies surrounding these vaccines and mandates. And this man right here always comes with the facts and receipts. Always. And he's very knowledgeable about the vaccine industry, because that's all they do is sue, pharmaceutical companies.
In my 66-page submission, I set out every single routine childhood vaccine on the CDC schedule today with sources citing to the FDA underlying.
Now, how come the guy next to him doesn't come with any receipts? Didn't come with nothing, has 9,000 papers on his desk, but has no facts and receipts. But all these other doctors and his lawyer have all the facts and receipts, but they're misinformed. Make it make sense.
Clinical trial documents that confirm. So if you dispute this term, you got to argue with the FDA. Not a single routine childhood vaccine on the current schedule, other than
whoever's
the
on here
vaccine
watching with me, I love you. I appreciate you.
was licensed based on a clinical trial in which the control group received a placebo. And if the control group received another vaccine, that vaccine was also not licensed based on a placebo-controlled trial. That is all set forth in here. It is categorically accurate, a placebo meaning an inert
By the way,
substance.
do you want to just talk about some of the most egregious examples? One I found. And
this lawyer, his group is called ICANN, and he's also has a firm in New York called something Syrian Glidstead or something like that. But you guys need to watch him and go look at their facts and receipts. You will be so mad and appalled at all that they have uncovered with all of this.
This is off of a blog, or I mean off of a podcast. So, but I'm assuming it's true because it hasn't been disputed. Apparently, the approval for the aluminum adjuvant in vaccines was done off of a trial with 4 rabbits.
Aluminum adjuvant
one of the rabbits died. They killed the other ones after 28 days and found all kinds of aluminum in the body. But
now this is what they knew from the beginning too, that they gave this to animals and they killed all the animals. Okay, so let's just give it to humans. Who cares? It's just a very diabolical, evil thing they have done. And the messed up thing is that people knew about it from the beginning. There was whistleblowers from the beginning, and they just let it go on all this time. It's disgusting.
Good go. Is that true as well?
Aluminum adjuvants are not. They're used to induce autoimmunity in lab animals. They are part of the active ingredients. They're not separately approved as their own standalone product. Injecting a child with just aluminum adjuvant would be entirely unethical because it has no therapeutic value in and of itself, unless you want to treat them like a lab animal.
I'm not suggesting do that. I'm just saying, but that's what it was approved for use in vaccines.
As far as I'm aware, actually, it's never been approved. Aluminum adjuvant standing alone.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not aware of any such approval. But to answer your question, why look at the safety of of childhood vaccines? And the answer, I think, is this: we should be looking at all environmental insults, because we are in the midst right now of a pandemic. There's been a lot of talk. We got to be ready for the next pandemic. We have a pandemic right now.
That's right.
It's a pandemic of chronic disease amongst our children.
Yeah.
Over 50% of kids in America have a chronic disease right now. That's up
crazy.
from under 13% in the early 80s. What's changed? What has caused massive immune dysregulation to occur amongst our children? Why do I say that? Because most of the chronic diseases that we've seen exploding, asthma, you go down the list, have an etiology in being a form of immune dysregulation. Not and I've set that forth in my submission as well. So you have an explosion in chronic disease since the early 80s. Most of those chronic diseases are a form of immune dysregulation. What has changed in terms of might be causing the immune systems of our children in mass to go haywire?
They already know the answer to this question. They already know. That's why RFK said that, they're going to, support, they're going to do the testing or whatever, the research that they need to do to prove to the public what these people have been saying for years. It's like the people still don't get it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. He believes that a lot of the vaccines cause autism. I believe it too, because most of the uptick in all these childhood illnesses and allergies and all this stuff, it just started becoming worse and worse with the more that they introduce into the schedule. And they want to provide the data, just like this lawyer did, to show you what they're doing. I do not trust pharma, and I do not trust the vaccine industry at all after all that these lawyers and these doctors have told us.
Well, maybe we should start by ruling out the fact that we have gone from 3 injections on the CDC schedule in 1986, the year the National Child Vaccine Draft was passed, to currently, if a child gets the full CDC schedule, follows it today, by 1 year of age, gets 29 injections, including in utero.
Crazy.
Okay, 3 to 29.
That's
and every
wicked.
one of those vaccines, as I mentioned earlier, was clinical trialed and licensed by a company, knowing they would not be liable for design defect claims.
Yeah.
We need to study that.
So maybe
like
you ought to,
everything
study
else.
that. Okay, I think we've probably gone about as far as we're going to go today. What I am going to do is give each one of you, and we'll end with the governor. You can have the last word. Well, I'll probably have the last word. But give you each, and I really respect it. Not much more than a minute. If there's just something.
There's about 10 minutes left to this, and
make,
everyone
can
give
you
their
make it in
final
a
words.
minute?
I appreciate
start with
anybody
you,
that
Dr.
stayed with
McCullough.
me through this.
You've asked for us to cite evidence. 3 papers by Nathaniel Mead, who's in the audience today, a former National Institutes of Health writer. 3 of them that contain nearly 1,000 references. So they're all there in these papers, have concluded that the risks of COVID-19 vaccination far outweigh any theoretical benefits. We've heard countless wishful thoughts from Senator Blumenthal and from Governor Green, Dr. Green, but they're wishful. They wish the vaccines would have saved lives. They wish the vaccines would have reduced severity. I can tell you, because you know this, I was one of the few doctors who was on the real front lines of treating acutely sick patients at home. That's how we reduced risk of death, not via a vaccine.
Yeah.
The marathon runner, he passed away because he didn't receive effective early multi-drug treatment.
Yep.
It didn't matter whether he took a vaccine or not. Our
Yep.
CDC knew about
That's
thousands.
what they're trying to say, that you know, vaccines help people, or you know, oh, the COVID killed all these people. Is not the illness is not what killed the people. It was the treatment. And another thing they're not telling you, that these doctors that privately treated the patients, all their people were fine. They saved all their people, even elderly people and everything. They just gave them the wrong treatments.
Thousands of patients fully vaccinated early in 2021 dying of acute COVID-19. It was abundantly obvious the COVID-19 vaccines did not reduce the risk of death. I don't want America to be fooled by this hearing today, thinking that the vaccines save lives, because they didn't.
Dr. Vaughn, please, audience, please. Dr. Vaughn. So,
first, they said they stopped transmission. You're not going to get sick, and it's like an armor. You're protected. Then they say, oh, but the vaccine doesn't stop transmission, but it keeps you from dying. It's like, okay, which is it? It didn't do any of the above, and in fact, it's caused more harm than it did good.
I challenge physicians to really return to the 2 C's of medicine, which is care about the person, the actual human being in front of you, and actually be curious about why they're there and why they seek help, not tell them that it's all in their head and there's nothing you can do. And nothing I have read has said that your problems are problems that I can do anything about. Instead, especially when we look at vaccine injury and long COVID, we're talking about 10 to 15 million people that are suffering, and we have a medical community that doesn't know how to help them. We have to study it, and we have to get back to caring about our patients and being curious about what their ailments are.
by the way, real quick question, because I meant to ask this. You hear long COVID, you hear vaccine injury. You know, kind of my assumption is most doctors look at a vaccine injury, call it long COVID. You know, what do you think the breakdown is? Because long COVID exists, right? I mean, that spike protein's a nasty thing.
And so just again, I think one of the biggest things is, at least in the 4,000 patients I've seen, about 80% of them have been vaccinated, 20% have not. And so long COVID does not equally mean that you have had to be vaccinated. There's plenty of people that didn't get vaccinated that have long COVID. But the problem currently in the way the studies are done is they are not disambiguating that data. And it needs to be collected, and we need to study it.
And see, they're getting in the way of the doctors actually correcting the problem. You know, this is crazy. And I don't understand why people are not mad at this.
Thank you. I'm an extremely busy clinician, 45 years. Okay. When I just in the past, in my tenure, 4.5 years, while I was working through the pandemic with SSM Health, 4.5 years, I saw 27,500 high-risk pregnant patients. It was extraordinarily busy. I published extensively during that time on the government data based on Pfizer's data. I gave it to my chain of command. Never once did they treat it as science. Never once did they allow me to present in grand rounds. And after I presented under your last testimony in 2022, I was fired from SSM Health because I brought it to their attention.
You see
It
how they
was
did these
never
doctors?
discussed at a department meeting or at a division meeting or at a grand rounds. That's not
That's horrible.
science.
That's corruption. Dr. Walscott.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. I'd just like to review a little bit about some of my frustration with regards to continually hearing how vaccine injury is rare. So just for a second, let's all look at big numbers. There's over 17 billion doses of COVID vaccines given worldwide.
Damn, 17
Freeman
billion.
study shows, and again, this is just for serious adverse events, ones of special interest,
17 billion.
1 in 800. That's 1/8 of 1%. Multiply those two numbers, and you have about 22 million adverse events to COVID shots worldwide. Multiply
lot.
that by 4.34%, which is about our US population as compared to the rest of the world. That's over 900,000 serious adverse events to COVID shots here in the United States.
That's horrifying.
And I think it's time to recognize these people, to research them, to provide them care, which they are not getting, and to consider getting them and really getting them fair and just compensation. Thank you.
I think it's,
How about that? I do believe that these companies, if it's once, I mean, it's already been proven that they lied and they covered up and they need to pay. They need to pay. That immunity needs to be lifted and they need to pay and be sued out of existence.
I think it's well past time. Mr. Siri.
I'm just going to quickly
so
correct the record on a
sad.
few things I've heard here today, if that's okay. First is that most vaccines, including most childhood vaccines required for school, do not prevent transmission. They're just personal protection, like pertussis vaccine, activated polio vaccine. And I've heard a lot about COVID vaccine. COVID vaccine does not prevent
And so
transmission.
he's so right. Why do they force all these shots on kids when they don't stop transmission? They just protect you. So what's the point of forcing all of these chemicals in kids?
Which makes a lot of what was discussed here today, when you put it in that light, doesn't make much sense. And if it does reduce symptoms, it actually makes you more likely to transmit, because if you don't have as much symptoms and you're still transmitting, you're less likely to stay away from other people. I also heard people talk about what the FDA's new guidance is. They're no longer going to give COVID vaccines to those who are in low risk groups. That's not what the FDA said. Read it. What they said was that they're going to require proper clinical trials for those in low risk groups, as they should. And I don't understand why there was so much talk about being opposed to this new FDA guidance. Why do we oppose gold standard science? Also, in all this discussion about deaths from COVID-19 vaccine, since we're going to rely on clinical trials, let's look at what happened in the clinical trial for the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. 21 people died who got the vaccine. 17 died in the placebo group. That's what happened in the clinical trial.
That's
and if
crazy.
we're going to then look at all-cause mortality, those match up pretty good. Okay. The FDA, when it came to getting 95% effective, remember that had 8 people in the placebo group had symptoms, 162 in the vaccine group had symptoms, putting aside there were another 3,000 that weren't tested that had symptoms. They used that statistical comparison to get their 95% figure. They should have done the same thing for deaths, but they didn't, because it doesn't fit their approach to get this product on the market. And so they let Pfizer explain away all the deaths, even though there were probably almost twice as many deaths of cardiac related. Also, you got to ask yourself, it's been 4 years that they're telling us the COVID vaccine is safe. So if it's safe, why do they still need immunity? Why does the manufacturer of this product still need immunity? All you'd have to do is two things to not get sued, just like you do with drugs. One, make it as safe as technologically possible, and two, disclose the risks. Then you can't sue for design defect claims, and you can't sue for failure to warn. Why don't they just lift the immunity, let them make it as safe as they can, and disclose the risk?
How about
Even
that?
drugs given to small populations can exist and make a profit because they do those two things. And why, after 40 years of childhood vaccines, can they not lift the immunity for a lot of them? Why? You got to ask yourself that question, because they don't either want to make them safer, because for whatever reason, or they don't want to disclose the real risks.
Okay, Mr. I gotta. Okay,
I three quick more.
no, I gotta move.
I got it.
on.
Okay.
Governor Green.
Okay, thank you for having me, Senator. A couple of things. I feel strongly about this. I feel strongly that vaccines save lives. I also acknowledge people who have different beliefs. I will say that a lot was said about being civil and kind to people who have disputed.
Now just listen to this guy. Everybody came with all these facts and receipts, and just listen. That's why I think it was brilliant that he let him go last.
Positions. Just so you know, one of the gentlemen who is on the panel today had their organization send out a hit piece on me back in my own home state. It was a very unusual thing as I came to testify in good faith, talking about my response, but also talking about things that have nothing to do with COVID, talking about how I am as a governor. So there is an ugliness out there that we all are going to have to navigate. And I want to acknowledge that. I will tell you that I oversaw a public health mission which resulted in a 90% vaccination rate, which is quite extraordinary for this circumstance. And for our state,
Look at all that
was a
stuff he
closed
has on his
system,
desk, but no.
we
facts
did
and
very
receipts.
well. We had, and I will bring you, probably to your dismay, a truckload of data and paper and information.
Now he said he gonna bring a truckload of data and papers and information. Okay, but why didn't you bring it today, like everybody else did? This is the bullshit. I'm telling y'all, if you're not tired of these people, I don't understand the mentality of why anybody wants to be aligned with these people.
And it will be compelling. So hopefully that will be considered by those who have different opinions. And I will consider their different opinions. But I will tell you this, I will caution everyone that as we go down the rabbit hole of possibly moving away from vaccinations or vaccination programs, be very careful what you wish for, because as a physician who is still...
The lawyer just sat there and said, nobody's saying nothing about getting rid of vaccines, just make them safe. Take away immunity so they have to make a safe product and say the risk. That's it. And if you want to still take vaccine, you can take 100. They can put in there, it's going to kill you, make you blind, and cripple you. And if you still take it, that's on you. They're not liable. They told you what the risk was. Why they can't do it with the childhood schedule, I don't understand that. It's horrifying that this is really targeted to the kids. Oh.
Practicing as a person who has spent many, many years practicing for the public health service, mind you, we will be in dire straits if we walk away from vaccinations and science.
See, there they go with the fear. They want to fear you, make you afraid and everything. Nobody said you can't take a vaccine. Just make it safe and say the risk. Do the testing. Do what you got to do to know what the risks are so people can know, if I take this, I could be paralyzed. If I take this, I could go blind. If I take this, I could stop breathing or get myocarditis or whatever the case may be. You know, this is gaslighting. This is crazy.
And the last thing I will tell you is I sat in, I believe it was this room, it was a similar room for sure, listening to the Secretary of Health and Human Services prior to his swearing in, talk about how he wouldn't even walk away from his professional life and his profits based on the work he's doing. And I'm not trying to demonize him, because as I've shared with you, I believe in some of the things that he supports. But when I hear from colleagues, people who are testifying
what is he talking
about immunity, they have interests, and those interests should be walked away from. If anyone's going to try to influence you, walk away from your interests, walk away from your vested positions. Be truth tellers, perhaps. Be part of the public health solution, but do not suggest that you are not compromised as you suggest others are compromised. We should fight for equality. We should fight for that kind of standard on both sides. That I recognize from the fellow testifiers, but there has been quite a lot of hypocrisy. And because I'm one of 6 and had to face some somewhat let's just say, caustic moments. I don't want to complain. I just want to say the future of healthcare is going to be for us to come together, not demonize one another.
Okay, now you want to come together and not demonize when that's what you've done for the last 5 years. Right now, they should have, by now, they should have know all the answers about COVID and how to cure it and how to fix it and this and that. Now, 5 years later, they're just now getting to the truth about what's in these products and the damages that it can cause and this and that. Everybody, y'all worried about illegal aliens, Donald Trump, and you know, different, you know, MS-13 gang members getting due process. Y'all should be worried about this. The biggest fight that America should have right now is to get the immunity removed from these pharmaceutical companies and offer these vaccine schedules so that we so we can know the dangers. Most people don't even know when they give their child a vaccine. They're just trusting their doctor. They don't even read what the safety signals are and stuff. If you make these people liable for these, I guarantee you nobody's going to take these. It's just is mind-boggling to me that any people are not upset over this.
And we can talk further about that privately. Thank you, sir.
Well, I regret caustic moments. I regret any kind of attacks. Don't support that at all. But I also don't like being accused of walking away from science. I mean, we're trying to restore integrity of science. I think it's indisputable. It's been
People
corrupt.
do not trust the government. They do not trust the medical field. They do not trust the courts. And it's mostly because of Democrat policies and how they move. And it needs to change. It needs to change. This is a disgrace
in many cases. So I want everybody at the table. Okay. And we'll take a look at our next hearing in terms of how we maybe create a little more balance here. But regardless, I do want to close and conclude that I know, as I said earlier, there's a lot of anticipation for this hearing. You know, I appreciate that. But I also want to caution everybody, this is going to be a slog. This isn't going to be some one hearing or one piece of information or one study that, okay.
Yep, he said it's going to be a permanent committee. It's what did they say? It's a Senate subcommittee, but it's going to be permanent forever. As long as they're there, that, you know, they're going to keep looking at these issues and watching what they're doing. And I think that is great. And I love it. And this is what I voted for. I love it. And I feel like the greatest fight that we need to have right now is getting the immunity lifted.
This side proved they're right. At the other side, you know, science isn't like that. To me, the best definition of science is skepticism.
Yep.
Now, skepticism hasn't been allowed. That'd be my point, Governor.
Yep.
We haven't been able to ask these questions. Those who do are vilified. Their careers are destroyed. Their licenses are pulled. Their accreditation is gone.
Because my thing is, if a doctor is saying, oh my God, my patients are saying they're injured and, you know, I'm finding this, that, and the third, then it should be proven. You understand? If you're going to, before you take a doctor's license away and slander them and say they're crazy and all this and that, and they're conspiracy theorists and all this and that, prove it. Prove them wrong. That is what they have not been able to do at all with any of these doctors.
Because you do have a cartel. It exists. Okay. I think it's undeniable. So again, we're the little people in this debate and argument. You know, the side, you know, the other side has all the dollars. They've got the media, they've got the bullhorn, all that kind of stuff. These are the little people here. They're being crushed by it. They've been crushed by it, but they've stood tall, and I appreciate that fact. But that being said, I'm not buying, you know, I don't just blindly say, okay, you said that, so that's what it is. I'm asking all of them, all of you, provide the science, be willing to debate.
Yeah.
I'm hoping on my next hearing, because we did this in my events, we always invited the federal health officials.
They don't come.
Okay, now probably need to get the federal health officials from the Biden administration. They're the ones kind of responsible for a lot of that.
Yeah.
Come forward. I'll give them an open forum. I'll give them, you know, equal access. The executives from Pfizer and Moderna. Come on forward, defend yourself.
Yeah, they're not going
engage
to.
in the scientific debate. They have been willing to do that in the past. They hid things. You've had to, not only FOIA, but then sue under FOIA to get the information. That's again. So there's a history here.
That's
There's a reality
terrible.
of what's happened.
People
If
should
there's
not take these
frustration, little
products.
hard feelings. You think you see it bubbling out, but again, put yourself in the shoes of the vaccine injured, who have seen their groups
Yep.
shut down by Facebook, who have got the emails from the families or the final suicide note from one of those people. There are people in this room that have gotten that suicide
Yep.
note. And they're still not acknowledged. They're still
Yep.
being gaslit. They're
It's
still being
terrible.
vilified. So that's the reality of the situation. I ran for a third term because nobody was advocating for the vaccine injured.
Nobody.
And I apologize for not having, no. I apologize.
I have to say, Marjorie Taylor Greene was one of the people that I saw trying to figure out what was going on too, because she was saying that there's people in her district that are saying that they're hurt and that something is wrong, and she was trying to help. And I don't know if there were others, but it really wasn't any of these politicians were not willing to step up and say, oh, something is wrong and let's look at this, except for like him and her. As far as I know, it might have been others, but those are the only two I've seen.
I apologize up front for not having a hearing earlier, but it takes time to get this information. And again, we only had a little bit, which allowed, Senator Blumenthal to pick apart the evidence. And I didn't say we made the full case. I've got indication we can make a pretty full case over the next at least 2 years during this chairmanship. So that's what I'm doing.
This is what I'm saying. 2 years. It's already been 5 years. So now 2 more years to build a case. It's crazy. This is crazy. Half of these people gonna be dead, or God only knows. This is ridiculous.
Dedicated doing. Stay tuned. There's going to be more to come. God bless all of you. By the way, got to do the record for this hearing remain open for 15.
That is a damn disgrace. That's a damn disgrace. It's gonna be 2 years before they can try to, pull a case together. That's crazy. But this is what y'all voted for. These are the people that you want to run the country. These evil ass, corrupt, demonic, wicked ass people. I don't care what anybody says. They have done the most wickedest stuff to the citizens here. With all of the government corruption with the money and, making citizens, terrorist organizations that, need to be stopped, locking up citizens for protesting, supporting illegal aliens and transitioning kids and all. I mean, they just do too much. And then this whole scandal, and then Biden's old age dementia scandal and all this and that. I mean, it's just one thing after the other. I'm like, you guys are not tired? These people have got to go. I can't imagine there's a single person left in the Democratic Party. It's a hot mess. Oh my God. They're telling me my food is ready. This got on my damn nerves. Every time I talk about Democrats, the fatigue is great. This is crazy to me that anybody can look at these people and the things they do and still align with them. It makes no sense to me. I'm about to get off of here tonight. Every time I talk about these people, it vexes my spirit. It's ridiculous. And I have to express to y'all, if you want to elevate your frequency, you cannot align with such people. These people are evil. And I don't know what type of Kool-Aid everybody's on. That they don't see the corruption and see how evil these people are and see how much they do not care about American citizens in this country. I don't see how there's anybody's left that support these people. I just don't. So I'm going to go now, you guys. I love you for sitting with me. Whoever's left in this live, I appreciate you I love you for sitting through this. I really do appreciate you. Please subscribe to the channel. Subscribe. Like the videos, watch some of the videos, like the videos, share the videos, leave comments, do whatever you can to help me catch this algorithm so your sister can get these messages out. My main reason for wanting to do this hearing is so I could get enough videos, because I make them into shorter reels so they're more easily watchable, just to get information out to people that may feel their vaccine injured, so they can get the help that they need. Because these doctors, and there's so many more out there, I just always try to open up a rabbit hole and push you in it, because we gotta wake up. We have to wake up. I'm trying to shake y'all out of sleep for years now, and I just don't even know what to say. But please just subscribe to the channel. I love you guys. This means I love you in sign language, and I do if you sat through this with me. I really appreciate you. I really, really do. And I'm going to go now. I am Shelly B. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you on